What's up, YouTube? So we are doing foam rolling or self-myofascial release for your hip flexor complex. Alright, so there are going to be three different areas that we hit with this. We're going to be working your rectus femoris, which is part of your quadricep. Okay, bear with me if you don't know the anatomy. Part of your quadricep muscle, and when you lift that knee up, if you're standing up or even sitting down, you lift your knee and extend that foot out, the muscle that you feel flexing right there, that's that rectus femoris. Okay, it's the only quadricep muscle you have right here that's also responsible for hip flexion. Okay. Second area that we're going to hit is your iliopsoas, which is actually a pair of muscles that are very thick and kind of hard to hit, but I'll give you kind of some tips on how to get in there and hit those. And then lastly, your TFL, your tensor fascial latae, which are latae, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, but your TFL is here on the side. So, and I'm sure a lot of you don't even really care about the terms, you just want to know why is your back hurting. So hip flexors are oftentimes the cause for back pain because what they do is cause an anterior pelvic tilt. So if you can imagine, if this is the front and this is the back of somebody, if you have overly tight hip flexors, they'll actually cause that anterior pelvic tilt to where your hips will tilt forward and your butt will stick out behind you, okay? As that happens, you can imagine if your hips are going forward, your butt sticks out and your belly comes forward, your spine is going to get kind of hurt in that, right? So it puts a lot of pressure on your back, and a lot of times when people think they have a bad back or they have back pain, it's actually coming from one or two or all three of those hip flexor areas. So enough with that, I'm going to show you how to get in and kind of foam roll those areas. So I'm going to start with the easiest one, is that rectus femoris, and like I said, the other ones we'll get in and use something a little bit smaller. So we are going to start rectus femoris. It is going to be basically, you just lay down on that foam roller. I usually start with it kind of just above my knees. Make sure I stay in frame. I'll start with it just above my knees. Now it's important here to not let your back sag, right? Think of it almost kind of like a mini plank. You're trying to keep your core engaged. And then all you're going to do is slide from just above your knee. Don't get on the knee, but just above the knee. Nice and slow. Okay? All the way down to just above the hips. Now guys, obviously you want to be a little bit careful here because it can get kind of ugly. And what I'll do is I'll actually do one leg at a time. So I'll kind of lift one leg up, and I'm extremely sore right now, so I don't know how long I'm going to do this without wincing, but I'll go as far down as I can, up to the hip, and then all the way down nice and slow. Just staying on that femur though, you don't want to come up into the hip itself, so being on that femur up and down, and same as any other foam rolling thing, when you find those soft spots like that right there, when you find those trigger points, you're going to kind of sit on it, let that muscle relax a little bit, and just try to get that trigger point out of there, get that blood, that fresh blood flow going through there, and try to get that the nerve impulse to let the muscle kind of relax a little bit. So like I said, you can start with both legs. Coming to that one leg at a time is going to put a little bit more pressure on there, and as you progress, initially doing both legs like this might hurt like the dickens, but then what you can do is take just one foot off, do one leg at a time. And another way to get that rectus femoris to kind of stick out onto the foam roller is called dorsiflex with your toe. So think, as you're foam rolling, you want to pull your toe up. And by pulling that toe up, that actually pulls that rectus femoris out. So you don't want, as you're foam rolling here, you don't want the toes pointing straight away from you. You can pull them up like that and keep it kind of nice and straight. So that's hitting the rectus femoris. Okay. Now the other area we're going to hit before we get into the more sinister means of foam rolling is the TFL. So if you've seen my IT band, you'll know that you're going to be kind of on the side here, but that TFL is, instead of being directly on the side, you're going to actually turn to about that 45-degree angle, okay? And it's going to be just about a maybe 4 to 6 inch area on the side of the hip right there. Kind of think like the front corner of your hips, okay? And same principle, you're going to nice and slow, See if you feel any areas that are overly tender, overly sensitive. And same thing, what I said, with your back not sagging, you don't want the hips to sag. You want to try and keep a good active side plank as much as you can. So this would be beginner. If you want to make it tougher, you would stack that foot on top, turn that slight 45-degree angle, and then get down into that hip. Okay, and that's working that TFL. Now the last and final one, this is an area where you need something a little bit smaller, whether it's, you know, a little 4-pound medicine ball or something like a softball. But because the way the iliopsoas are, that thick, short area that you can get to, thick muscle, you need to get something smaller and get into that hip, okay? So I would start gingerly. I would kind of keep your body weight up as much as you can and let yourself down slowly. Don't just plop right down onto that ball. But I would start here, get it right on that side of your hip, that thick slab of muscle. Like I said, when you lift your leg, when you're standing and you feel that muscle protrude on the side, and you can almost increase this by the side that you're rolling on, flex that glute. So right now I'm on my right leg, I'll squeeze that right glute, and that'll help that hip flexor area kind of protrude even more. You guys might just see me holler right now. Whew. But, and again, it's not a very, you're not going all the way up and down the leg with this. It's just, you know, maybe 4, 5, 6 inches that you're trying to hit. And like I said, squeezing the glute, push that muscle into that tennis ball, softball, medicine ball, whatever you're using, that'll definitely help.